45, 50, whatever the number is. I really appreciate everybody coming today for our first Zoom meeting, especially the ones out of town. I mean, we've got Hoop here and we've got AA9K and maybe a few others from out of town. I don't know about y'all, but I've been spending more time on the radio than I have in months. And I don't know whether 6 and 10 are really open, but there have been an awful lot of 6, 10, 17, 12, and 15 have been hopping over here. I've had a blast. I hope everybody else has too. Just want to remind everybody about, since we're not having the Tuesday breakfast, a group of us are meeting at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays on 6 meters, 50.125. And then around 10 o'clock, we go to 17 meters, 18.150. And then if you're not totally worn out, around 11, the lunch group meets on 3980. So I would encourage everybody to go join them. We've been having a blast with that. And learning a lot on 6 meter simplex, where we can cover and where we can't around the county. And speaking of 6 meters, Monday night's alternate will be on 6 meters. And I think Jeff is going to call that. If anybody is with us today that has not heard, we lost Mike Lee about a week ago to a heart attack. He'd been in the hospital and had some surgery and was at home and had a heart attack and passed away. There's no plans yet on when a service is going to be. He's been cremated, but there's no plans on a service. And the family is asking for memorials to be sent to the Boy Scouts of America, or specifically to the troop there in Brentwood that he worked with for so long. And finally, the last thing I've got, if y'all have got your current QST, look on pages 72 and 73. The league CW Sweepstakes N4FR finished in the top 10 in their category, first place in the division, and they're going to be getting a plaque, which we'll put in the radio room sometime soon. But great work, guys. My part of the presentation is going to be on how WCARES assists the Williamson County EMA. A lot of you may not be aware of some of this stuff, and a lot of you, it's old hat. But the EMA is our served agency. We're an ARRL group. We're not a club, so we assist the league. We assist the staff in maintaining all of the repeaters, as well as the link systems and a lot of other things. We participate in the county reserve program. There's quite a few of us that are members of the reserve. We also have a seat at the EOC communication group table for the monthly LEPC meetings. And that table is the first one you come to when you come in the door. That's the communication table. The members of the reserve, just so you know, they're vetted. They get background checks. They go through interviews. And the people that are doing a lot of the work or leading a lot of this work are the reserve members. One of the things that we do on a routine basis is there's 10 tables in the EOC. There's 7 in the JIC, which is the little side room. There's 9 stations per table. We come in there every couple of months and we check every computer, all the equipment on the tables, the big screens, the head table, and anything that's not working, we give a report. Jack is the leader of this, and we give a report to the EOC manager and tell them what's not working, so that they can get it fixed. Because the last thing you want to do is need the room and a bunch of the stuff doesn't work. Another thing that we've done for the last couple of years, the county has been upgrading their communication equipment in their trailers and in their vehicles. And we've actually helped them with the programming of all the inventorying and programming all the new equipment that comes in, the radios that go in the vehicles, and all of their HTs. We've had some great parties out there programming hundreds of HTs. The radio room, y'all have all seen this. We've got 3 computer stations, 2 HF radios, and 2 dual band radios in there. The HF radios are all TS2000s, and Jack is working on getting another one set up. We're also working on getting amplifiers for both of them. 1 amp is in right now, and I think he's working on a second one. The antennas that we've got several wire antennas. There's beam antenna. There's a hex beam up on the roof, and we work on maintaining those. They're rolling stock. This same group that checks on the equipment in the EOC also does checks on the radios in the trailers, the tower truck, the communication trailers, and the mobile repeater. And we do this work, I think it's every 3 months. So with that, that's all I had. It was just a quick overview for the people that are in the group, but may not be aware of everything that we're doing. So I'm going to unmute everybody. I hope it works. Jeff, let me see if I can hear you.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Has anybody got any questions on that? Well, I snowed all of you. As always, we'd love to have help with these times when we go in and check on the equipment. So if you can do it. Okay. Let's see. I've got one thing in chat. It says, Paul says, what are the frequencies of the mobile repeaters? We have used the mobile repeater for bike races where we set it up down in the far end of the country. Jeff, you're more familiar with that. I think it can be pretty much, it's got to be tuned up, but it can be set on whatever they need it, right?
Yeah, it can be set on whatever it is. Of course, it's mostly public safety frequencies for fire, police, EMS, sheriff's department, stuff like that. We do have an HF that's set up for wind link capabilities, and really that's all. There's not any VHF or UHF amateur equipment in there, but any of the radios could be reprogrammed to do that.
Right. Well, I know one time on that 100-mile bike ride, it was moved down to that church site, the far southern part of the county.
Yep.
All right. Anybody got any other questions? All right. I'm gonna start Laura's presentation, and then I'm gonna go send Ted the link so that he can get in.
Hello, this is Laura Marler.
I thought somebody said they weren't getting it, so.
I'm a operator with the Williamson County ARRL, and I'll be giving a brief overview of the WCARES SKYWARN Severe Weather Net. SKYWARN nets are the most common emergency nets that most hams encounter, and you may have questions on how our net operates. So during this presentation, I'll cover how we prepare for the net, when it's activated, some tips on making good reports, and when the net is secured. I'll also answer some common questions about the MTIR's statewide UHF net and how our net interacts with it. I'll have some rules, some guidelines, and of course, a few exceptions to those rules. So let's start with how we prepare for the net. Twice a week, Monday and Thursday, the Weather Service in Nashville holds a briefing webinar. On the right, you can see an excerpt from the multi-page briefing slides. Depending on our expected conditions, it can be quite a long document. Included in this briefing is the Storm Prediction Center's Severe Thunderstorm Outlook, which is a color-coded map, with each color corresponding to a risk category. So, what do those risk categories mean? This chart from the Storm Prediction Center website shows how Weather Service categorizes various types of thunderstorm risks expected during a given period. First, there are the general garden variety thunderstorms that won't meet severe criteria. Then comes a rating system of 1 through 5, indicating increasing intensity and duration, starting with number 1 for marginal risk for isolated, limited duration storms, to the number 5 or high risk category that produces widespread and long duration storms. Now, if I'm going to be home and there's a marginal risk, remember that is 1 of 5 forecast, I generally just handle a net myself. However, if the risk is slight or above, remember that is a 2 of 5 risk, I'll send an email to the SKYWARN Net Control Group asking who's available for staffing. In addition, I prepare an ICS 214 form and put it in the SKYWARN Net Dropbox folder so it's ready if it's needed. Let's move now to the day of the event. When a severe weather watch is announced, then our net moves into standby or monitoring mode. At that time, the net control operator logs into NWS chat, we'll talk more about that in a few minutes, and begins monitoring both the WCARES repeater system as well as MTIRs. Now, some of you may be surprised to hear that it's okay to use the repeater system during a watch. Well, that's because sometimes people use the terms watch and warning interchangeably. They are really not the same thing. If you ever hear someone confusing the terms watch and warning, think of this example. This picture is humorous, but it does illustrate the differences between a watch and a warning pretty accurately. Think of a severe weather watch as like a recipe. All the ingredients are present, they just haven't been assembled into a final form. The Weather Service wording often reflects this by saying conditions are favorable for development of severe weather. In other words, they may come together or they may not. Now compare that to a severe weather warning where the recipe, in this case for cupcakes, has been assembled, it's been baked, and is now ready. So in summary, a watch means that severe weather is possible, while a warning means that severe weather is either happening right now or it's imminent. Let's talk for a moment about NWS Chat. Chat is the National Weather Service's proprietary instant messaging system. Each NWS office has its own virtual room. The state of Tennessee is served by 4 Weather Service offices. West Tennessee is served by Memphis, East Tennessee by Morristown, and there are 3 counties at the southern Tennessee-Alabama border that are covered by Huntsville. Our office for Middle Tennessee is Nashville, also called OHX. Since we monitor and report to OHX Nashville meteorologists, we refer to their room as the main room. There's also OHX Ham Chat Room. That is for amateur radio operators and other emergency personnel, where county liaisons can also check in and submit reports. When the WCARES net control operator receives a report from you, it's logged first into OHX Ham Chat, then reposted into the main room for the meteorologist to see if it includes significant weather or damage. Please note that access to chat is limited to the emergency management community, emergency coordinators, SKYWARN net control operators such as ARRL and RACES, as well as the electronic media, which is commercial radio and television. If you've applied for chat access but have been denied, it's no reflection on you as an operator. It's simply based on a need-to-know basis. Let's say now that there's a warning for Williamson County. Full net activation is precipitated by a severe weather warning or the anticipation of a warning. SKYWARN nets, like all emergency nets, are directed nets, meaning all traffic or all communications go through a net control operator. That is to keep order. Traffic during the net is limited to severe weather and weather-related damage only, so no chit-chat, please. Some of you come from other regions or states that routinely ask for check-ins either during standby or shortly after activation. We do not, primarily because we don't deploy mobile spotters. The decision to deploy spotters would have to come from our emergency coordinator or the Williamson County emergency manager. That is not a decision of the net control operators. Of course, if a situation develops where volunteers would be needed either as spotters or afterward to assist with communication in shelters, our emergency coordinator would indeed direct net control to ask who's available. Reporting criteria is always given by the net control at the beginning of the net, and that criteria is repeated throughout the net. As most of our severe weather nets are for convective weather, convective meaning severe thunderstorms and tornadoes, it is convective weather criteria that we'll discuss next. That criteria is tornado, funnel cloud. Please note the difference between the two. Rotating wall cloud, flooding, hail equal to or greater than 1/2 inch. Please use standard size items like coins and not marbles as reference. Marbles range in size from 1/2 inch to 2 inches. Again, use standard size items as your size reference. Winds greater than 50 miles per hour measured by an anemometer, either the one you have on your home weather station, or some of you may even have handheld items. Any structural damage and any trees or power lines down. And that is it. Please only call in if you meet the stated reporting criteria. Not if you are in a warned area and have partly cloudy 79 degrees and light breezes. Now there's an exception. Occasionally, the Weather Service will issue a warning based on radar. For example, they're showing 70-knot winds 5,700 feet aloft in the Fairview area, and they will ask if anyone has heard reports of wind, hail, or damage in that area. So the WCARES net control may ask for current conditions from someone in the Fairview area. In that particular case, it is just fine to call in with your report of partly cloudy 79 degrees and light breezes because you're answering that question. Otherwise, if conditions in the location change, call in only with your reportable criteria as above. So let's talk a little bit now about making good reports. Two things to keep in mind for making weather reports. Number one, the most important thing is please be safe. Can you safely report the event? If not, hold off until you can. Don't make a report at the sacrifice of your own safety. Just think, if you're mobile, you might be more at risk from distracted drivers or your own distracted driving from the weather service or the weather event itself. Number one is please be safe. The second thing is to be very specific. You want to include the big three in your report. For reporting, you want to include what is it, where is it, and when is it happening. For what is it, describe the weather event or the damage that you're seeing. Please report what you actually see, not what you think you see. Remember the difference between a tornado and a funnel cloud? They may look similar, but one's extending from cloud to ground. The other is only cloud-based and never touches down, so there's no debris. If you see something that doesn't look quite right to you, go ahead and report it, but don't qualify what you think that event is. Leave that to the meteorologists. Where is it happening? That is the location the event is occurring or where the damage is located in relation to your location. Please give the proximity to the nearest city, cross streets, and the intersections. And if you're mobile, give the mile markers and the direction of travel if applicable. It can be helpful in low audio situations to spell street names and roads. And of course, when refers to when the event or the damage occurred if you know it. Did it happen now? Did it happen an hour ago? If you're relaying a report from someone, please try to get the event time if they have it, not the current time that you're calling in. We ask that you do not submit scanner reports because if it came through the police or fire, the meteorologists are already aware of it. Same thing with broadcast media, which is television or commercial radio. If it's on Channel 5, it's already been recorded. And unless you are a court stenographer, please remember that people speak faster than the average person can write or type, and they speak even faster under pressure. Give your report slowly so the net control operator can get it and you can be on your way. The net is closed or secured when the severe weather has exited the county, the threat is ended, and there are no additional reports. Now, the net control operator may continue to monitor a while longer just in case of late reports. For example, someone is coming home from work and they discover that there has been damage to their home. The net control would be standing by to take that late report. When he or she is convinced that there are no further reports to be made, the ICS 214 form is checked, updated, and sent off to the WCARES emergency coordinator. Now you have an overview of how our basic SKYWARN net operates. But there's also questions about that big statewide UHF net called MTIERS and how we interact with it. What is MTIERS? The acronym stands for the Middle Tennessee Emergency Amateur Repeater System. It is currently at 30 UHF repeaters who are being added regularly. They are continually linked, and there is a complete repeater list at the website at mtiers.org. During severe weather, the MTIERS Net Control takes check-ins and reports from county liaison stations like the WCARES SKYWARN Net, emergency managers, and so forth. It is one of the two primary ways of relaying reports to the Weather Service. The other is NWS chat. It's also used for team exercises, bike races, and other athletic events. So it's not limited to emergency use. It's open to every licensed amateur radio operator when it's not in net or weather mode. But then the question arises, how do I know what mode it's in? We've all heard the phrase, it's easy as 1, 2, 3, right? Well, with MTIERS, the mode really is indicated by is it 1, 2, or 3. Of course, I mean to listen to the courtesy tones. For example, in the average day, you might throw out your call sign and you'd hear this. That is one boop. One tone is for normal operating mode. You're free to talk as you wish, but if there is a chance of storms during the day, please allow just a bit more time between your transmissions in case a net control operator needs to make an announcement. So one tone equals normal operating mode. Number two, let's use the example of a Monday night between 7:57 and 9:45, or else the third Thursday of the month between 12 noon and 12:45. If you go to MTers, you hear this. That's two tones for da-dit, Morse code N, so please listen before you push to talk. If it's the Monday night net, wait for your county of residence to be called before you check in. And if it's the third Thursday of the month, which is the hospital net, don't check in unless you represent a medical facility. So 2 is N for net. Number 3, it's a stormy day and there are warned storms in the area. So when you tune into MTers, you'll hear this. 3 tones, da-da-da, Morse W, W for severe weather mode. The frequency is closed unless you are a county liaison, emergency personnel, or have weather-related traffic. K4OHX is the tactical call used by the MTers net control. 3 is for W for weather. Who reports to MTers? During activation, MTers is for reports from county liaisons, such as the WCARES net control only. Everyone else is asked to report severe weather or damage to the local county net. If you're in Williamson County, make reports to WCARES. If you're in Davidson, report to DCARES. Or if you're in Sumner or Dyer or Murray or Knox, report it to the local county net. Because reporting to the local county net allows that net control to verify facts of your report. It also allows county residents who may be monitoring only the local frequency to know what's going on in their neighborhood. Another exception. If you're mobile in another county and you've unsuccessfully tried to find the local net to make a report, or it would be dangerous for you to try to program the frequency into your radio while you're mobile, then it's fine. Go ahead and report the event or damage to the MTers net control K4OHX. So I hope this answers some of the questions that you have about MTers. There you have it. You now know how our local SKYWARN net operates, what MTers does. So I have one last thing, and that's to say thank you. Thanks to all of you who monitor our repeater system. Thank you for your reports. And in behalf of Trey, Jeff, Scott, Randy, Jack, and myself, thank you so much for your patience with the net control operators. Is there room for improvement in our net? You bet. We keep working on it. We want to have the best net in the area. We want to have the nets to get the jobs done. They're flexible enough for simple activations as well as complex ones, and that support our operators and our served agencies. Thank you, everyone, for your attention to this presentation. This is N4CLO 73.
Okay, thank you, Laura. That was great. Well, let's see. I've got some chats here. Let me go back up. John Kessel, does everyone who is not visible know to start video? Well, I have mentioned that. And we've talked about muting microphones. I'm going to unmute everybody. Ronnie asked, can anyone participate in the weather webinars? What webinars are you really referring to, Ronnie?
Just the one that she mentioned in the presentation.
Oh, that's the briefing?
Yes.
I think there's that briefing goes out to a select group, and then it's put on a bunch of websites. Laura, do you know more about how to get on the list for the briefing?
Yeah, it is can you hear me okay, Ronnie?
Yes, ma'am.
That is for a select group. It's generally net control operators, emergency managers, emergency coordinators. Again, it's another need to know basis. However, there is a very abbreviated version that anybody can access on the OHX website, and that address is weather.gov/OHX. You scroll down to middle of the page on the lower right, and you'll see something called, I think it's the Middle Tennessee Hazardous Weather Report, the Situation Report. That is a very abbreviated version of what's going to happen in the week. It is updated twice a day. It is accessed for everyone. So you won't get the same amount of detail, but if there is information about severe weather, they're going to update that. So you have access to for example, the high points of what's in the briefing. The weekly, twice a week briefing is just more detailed.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
One other thing y'all can do is if you join the 3980 group on groups.io, Elizabeth posts these briefings to that group. She does Memphis, Huntsville, Nashville, and Morristown and Paducah. So if you join the 3980 group on groups.io, you can go there and see those too.
Ed, I'm not sure it's Paducah. I think it's Huntsville. She does all four that handle the state of Tennessee.
If there's something going on hot in Paducah, sometimes she puts it there. But yeah, she does put Huntsville there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody had an open mic, but I wasn't going to break in. I've already been through the SKYWARN training and was a designated spotter in Texas. This is KI5 SGT. That's great. A bunch of us have been through SKYWARN training, except mine was back in the covered wagon days. I need to do it again.
Can I share something on that?
Absolutely.
Again, if you go to weather.gov/OHX, Oscar Hotel X-ray, that's the Nashville. They have links to online spotter classes, basic as well as advanced, free. It's just an hour of your time. In addition, if you are a real weather weenie, they have what's called Weather 101, which are more details. They take one subject, like the most current thing they've got now is an overview of radar. What does it mean when they talk about CC? What is the correlation coefficient? They've had last class on more detail about severe thunderstorms, about the North American monsoon, which doesn't affect us here, but if you've ever lived in Arizona, you need to know about the monsoon. There's things about the QLCS. We hear that term a lot, quasi-linear convective system, which is a squall line. The term derecho is the highest end version of that. They go into more detail. They allow questions. Again, it's paid for by tax dollars, so it's an hour of your time. And like I said, if you're a weather weenie, that's a great place to just build on your basic or even your advanced training and get a little bit more information straight from somebody that knows what they're talking about. They're meteorologists.
And Jack?
Okay. Any other questions for Laura?
Jack.
No,
This is Jack. This is Ed. I'm sorry. My goodness.
I answer to a lot.
It's
But
too
Jack,
early.
no, you're pushing your luck.
I'm sorry. Never mind, Jack. Hey, on that same note, ARRL, one of the ARRL's requirements is that you do renew your SKYWARN training every 2 years. I have done the online stuff like Laura said, and it's really good. It doesn't take a lot of time, and there is some good information out there.
I guess I better go do it then, because it's probably been 40 years. But weather's still weather.
yeah.
Well,
One reminder to all of us that are out and make reports. Besides the give the report slowly, is do us all a favor and key for a moment before you start talking, especially if you're coming in off of one of the repeaters other than the Brentwood hub, or if you happen to be making that report to MTIERS, since that is a rather large link system. Key your mic and then give your report. If you spend any time at all monitoring, especially MTIERS, you'll see how it makes it impossible to get the whole report if you just start talking immediately on these link systems.
Right.
And building on, excuse me, and building on what Scott said, if one trick I learned from Elizabeth, if you want to make sure that no matter how long it takes your link to come up, that you won't get the prefix of your call sign, start out your transmission by saying this is N4CLO, this is WB4RHQ. If something's going to get cut off, it's going to be this is, and it's about 1 second. If you speak slowly, it's 1.5 seconds. So what we'll get through is your full prefix as well as suffix. That is a great trick. It's simple, and it makes sure that it's just that little bit easier, as Scott said, to get your report in and get you back to doing what you need to be doing.
I have a quick question on the online training.
Go ahead.
I've done a few of those, and I'm curious, is there someone within the group that we would turn those certificates into, or we just tell you, or it's an honor system? Is that tracked at all?
Yes, it is. If you get a certificate, send it in to me, and I'll get it to David Holmes, and he will put it in the database.
Sure.
Anybody got anything else for Laura? All right, Laura, I really appreciate your presentation. You did a great job. Before we go, one other thing I wanted to mention was field day. Right now, the plans are still up in the air. Assuming we're not going to get back into the EOC like we normally do, there's several options for us and that Cliff and I have been discussing. One of them, worst case, is everybody does their own 1E station. That's a single op on emergency power. You can go on battery, solar, whatever, just not on house current. And we will have our own competition amongst the members. Obviously, you can go ahead and send your submission in, but I think if we go that route, we'll probably have a winner amongst the WCARES members and see who does that. There's also been discussion about maybe, and I think, Tim, you're aware of this, setting up the TS-2000s for remote operation. The radios are still within 1,000 feet of each other, just like it calls for in the rules, but the operators would be remote and they would each be given a time slot to do the radios. I don't know the details of how we would pull that off, but that's an option. And, you know, obviously, best case, we can get back into the room. We screen everybody when they come into the building and we go as normal. But, you know, there'll be more coming out on that the first of next month. Tim, you want to say anything more about linking the radios remotely?
Yeah, Ed. So
the TS2000s can be used remotely. And what we could do, like you said, is just set up time slots. We could do it as a 2F station, one CW and one sideband, and then just have people download the Kenwood software onto their home computers, and they can link in. Obviously we're going to need some practice with that, but and I don't have one of those TS2000. Jack, have you used any of the stuff remotely, Jack?
No, have not. We got two extra TS2000s. One we got crap up going to repair. We got paid for it, so a replacement for that one's coming in next Wednesday. So that will give us three. But to answer your question, I have not done any remote work on it.
We could
one to play with.
We could play with that one.
Yeah, when they get in, if you'll let me know, Jack, I'll see if I can download the software and see if I can get into it from my house, and that'll be a good.
One at the house right now, Tim, and the second one's coming in. So anytime you're ready.
Well, all right, I'll give you a call later this afternoon.
Sounds good.
All right. Has anybody got anything else for the group?
Yeah, Ed, we can also do the same thing with the flex radios. Those will allow for remote operation as well.
Right, but the radios would have to be within a close proximity of each other instead of at people's houses.
Right.
ICOM also has that functionality as well.
What does, Randy?
ICOM radios.
Yeah, you're right. But we're talking about the radios that we've actually got in the room there at the EOC.
I thought we had an ICOM in there.
Jack, what have we got in there?
We have a 7600 on the left and a 2000 on the right.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we do. Okay, I forgot. So, that's an option that we can pursue next month once we know a little more about where all this is going. Like I said, we had 54 on the call today, so if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting and let y'all get on with playing on the radio.
Good morning, everybody.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Nice job, Ed.